I broke the... Welcome to Narrative. My name is Veronica, and today, in honor of end of October, we're doing a little spooky because today we are going to be reading 1-star reviews of my favorite books. Ooh. I thought we could do something more light this time because last week we were a little bit, heavy, not necessarily negative because we did the positive intent stuff, but definitely a little bit more targeted, if you will. But today, let's do something very lighthearted, a little bit cozy. Let's get started. First out is Howl's Moving CLE by Diana Wynne Jones, which is one of my all-time favorite books. I'm trying to be cute with this, but I'm keep almost dropping my phone that I'm kind of hiding in here, but This is going to be a quick review, except it's not. It fills up my entire phone screen here. This is going to be a quick review because I don't want to waste any more time on this book. Okay, strong start. I honestly can't believe the high ratings this has. The characters are whiny, self-centered, and unlikable. Whiny and self-centered, I'll give you that. Some of them are very whiny, very unlikable, but I also think that that's kind of what they're supposed to be. There was no character development. What book did you read? I didn't care what happened to anyone, and I could not find a point to the story. I think that's a you issue, babe. What? What do you mean there was no point to the story? The whole thing was finding courage. Anyway, you are entitled to your opinion. The whole thing was monotonous, uneventful. Howl's Moving CLE? Are you kidding? Howl's Moving CLE uneventful? There was so much stuff happening that what book did you read, girl? Moving on to another one, because I don't think we read the same book, I'm pretty sure. Howl's Moving CLE was one of the books I was most excited to read, but it seems that it wasn't something for me. Fair, very fair. I counted on a story full of magic and wonder, on interesting characters and thrilling villain, but I didn't get it at all. I didn't connect with any of the characters and couldn't find any relationship I could cheer for. Excuse you? Calcifer is in this book. What do you mean? Calcifer is in this book. You do not do Calcifer dirty enough to say there was nothing there for you. Who doesn't want a fire demon? Come on. Let's talk about the Timekeeper. Timekeeper is probably one of my all-time favorite books ever, and highly recommended to pretty much everyone. I think that there's room for discussing whether or not it is fantasy, but I'm defining it as fantasy, so let's just roll with it. Let's see what people have to say about it. It's Mitch Albom. Surely it's good, as his other books have been enjoyable. Expecting a great storyline with a depth of meaning and philosophy, I found myself becoming increasingly agitated and depressed. I mean, yeah, it's not exactly a pick-me-up story, so yeah. A waste of a cool idea, and the description is inaccurate. This is a bad YA Christian fiction with insufferable characters. It's a 200-page preachy cliche. Tons of reference to God's will and God's gift. The first man to measure time is a sinner because he measured time. Yes, mankind was much better off 6,000 years ago before anyone started thinking and inventing and whatnot. The cover of the book is cool, and so is the concept. I was duped. I missed my $7. I'll give you the Christian aspect. I think that is very clearly advocating in that direction. However, as someone who isn't religious in any sense of the word, I kind of blocked those parts out and just kind of like skipped over the preachy stuff and looked at what the message it was trying to talk about, which is basically like the concept of time and how you approach it and perceive it. Like, it really helped me deal with a lot of fears about death and time running away and all of that stuff. I understand that someone who is more sensitive towards the religious stuff might not really enjoy the book because of the heavy, religious aspects on it. So I think that is actually a fair criticism to it. I disagree that it's a waste of a good concept. I would love to read a full, like, high fantasy novel that just follows this stuff. That would be really cool, which is probably why I love Terry Pratchett's Mort as well. Maybe I should write it myself. No, I have enough projects. Like, stop it. The ending was beautiful, but that's it. Yeah, okay. I like the journey there, but yeah, okay. Okay, people, why are you so reasonable with your fucking reviews? I was expecting to be, like, scandalized or something, but I can just see, like, yeah, that's a fair point. Like, it's fine. Sorry, holding this one is too much. I'm just gonna put you here, be pretty. But yeah, let's move on to Terry Pratchett, The Color of Magic. It's one of my, like, all-time... not all-time. One of the first more humorous fantasy books that I had read. Otherwise, all of the fantasy stuff that I've read has been very serious and very, like, life or death, end of the world kind of things. So discovering Terry Pratchett and actually engaging in it was very much a, oh my god, you can write fantasy that is lighthearted and funny and all of that stuff. So for me, The Color of Magic was one of the first books I have ever literally laughed out loud at. I remember it so clearly. I was on the subway, some part of it, and I just burst out laughing. Like, it's never happened before, so I have very fond memories of it. So, let's see what people have to say. This series is much beloved by my friends, both here on Goodreads and out in the wilds of the meat space. Oh my god, I love that. Meat space. Okay, that was so good. He's even been referred to as fantasy's answer to one of my favorite authors, superlatively funny, an insightful Douglas Adams. As such, I was excited to start the series at the beginning, hoping the wit and wisdom would overcome the warts of this early outing. Okay, the reviewer is very good with words, okay? Very painting of pictures. I like gold star to the reviewer. This is very fun. Unfortunately, the jokes drew more groans than guffaws. I never said that word out loud. Reminding me of Mark Twain's comments on the book of friends and fellow American treasure Ambrose Bierce. Dodd Grill. But for every laugh that is in this book, there are 5 blushes, 10 shudders, and a vomit. The laugh is too expensive. Okay, so we see that this reviewer is very honest about what their preferences are, and they are taking it in good, like, in a good way. They're taking it in good stride, I think. That they're very clear, like, okay, this is the type that I'm very interested in, and, like, they're playing it up so that you know that it's, like, in good nature, good heart, whatever. Pratchett has none of the wry, oddball musings of Adams and seems to me to be less the fantasy version of that author and more the British version of endlessly punny writers Piers Anthony. I guess you can't trust your friends. Reviewer, perfect. But what I will say is, I think people are incorrect when they're saying that Pratchett is fantasy's answer to Douglas Adams. Because Douglas Adams leans into the absurdism. And that's not really what Pratchett does. Pratchett is more of a taking tropes and expectations and turning them inside out, upside down, and then kind of playing you as a reader for a fool because you have the expectations and then here's the other one. And that's not absurdism that Adams does. So comparing the two, it's not a fair comparison in my opinion. So don't trust people who say Pratchett is fantasy's answer to Douglas Adams. If you went into this book expecting it to be like Adams, yes, fully respect that you did not like it. I'm probably one of the few readers on this planet and surrounding galaxies that don't enjoy Pratchett's prose. Yeah, I haven't really heard anyone talk about his prose all that much, although I can see that it could be difficult for people to get into. I can see it. This book frustrated me to no end. Very near the beginning of it, I thought about throwing it across the room because I couldn't, for the life of me, follow a conversation on about page 6. I read and reread those pages to no avail. I finished the book because my husband told me it was wonderful and funny and I would really enjoy it. I didn't. That ending really stuck the landing. What Pratchett does is a lot of playing with expectations, and through doing that he also a way that he does that is by playing with words a lot of the times. So while I don't see why you wouldn't follow the conversation, I can see that specifically for non-natives that it can be tricky to keep up with, because a lot of the word plays and all of that stuff is a inherent cultural linguistic, or the cultural aspect of linguistics that comes with being a native or really studying the language properly. So in short, actually going back to why I wouldn't compare Adams with Pratchett is because Adams does a lot of absurdism, whereas Pratchett is playing with you. That's what he does. This sort of reminded me of all those cult classics, which I just couldn't get into. Maybe it's the British humor thing. I just don't find it funny. That is also very true. It's like British humor is sometimes very difficult for people to get into. It tends to be very sarcastic and very dry and very heavily focused on making fun of you, but in good spirit. So yeah, maybe that's why. I think people who recommend Pratchett to people who are new to the genre are doing them a disservice. Pratchett is the kind of author that you can truly enjoy after having embroiled yourself into those types of books for a long time. When you're really being able to pick out the minute details, that's when you're really going to appreciate Pratchett. So I would tell people to stop recommending Pratchett to people who are new into the genre, because I don't think that that's the right target audience. The next book is Across the Nightingale Floor. I will give the little caveat here is that I read this when I was 15, which is 15 years ago. I have not reread it, but it is the book that I am looking to reread now as an adult with a lot more experience and knowledge under my belt. I still wanted to include it here because I really love the book. So it will be very interesting to see what other people think about it, even before I reread it. Here's someone who DNF'd, or as if you're new to it, did not finish at 65%. I'm in a reading slump because of this book. Oof. Okay, that's harsh. It's boring with a ridiculous love story. Love story with insta-love, and I kid you not, from the first look they shared, they fell in love. I can't fault them for this. I remember that even at 15, I was like, this is kind of weird. That's a fair point, actually. I think that now rereading it, I would probably criticize that as well. I have read a lot of romance stories over the past few years, and one of my biggest pet peeves is the insta-love. I really can't deal with it because it's so unrealistic. It's just like, okay, get over it. I can handle dragons. I can handle magic. I can handle going to literal hell. I can handle gods. But tell me why I can't handle insta-love. I don't know. Honestly, what are your thoughts on that? Because I would love to hear what you think is the reason I can't handle or stand insta-love when I can get behind all of these other things, because it's not about realism, is it? And I haven't really been able to figure out what it is. So if you have any theories, please drop them down below. I would love to hear your theories. I guess I'm in my hater era. That's fair. I think being able to acknowledge that is fine. Sorry, it just made me laugh just starting that. Because wow, not the vibe. I've never really been a fan of martyrdom. Martyrdom, like sounding like the Swedish chef. Jesus, martyrdom. Dom, hi Dom. I usually think that it's a bit stupid. Some great imagery though. I'm struggling so hard with pronouncing things right now. The titular Nightingale floor is 10 out of 10. I just wish it was surrounded by a more interesting book. I mean, can I really disagree with it based on my memory? Something that this review does point out, I'm gonna have to block it out for, you know, YouTube reasons, but I want to be honest and let people know going into this book, if you're interested, you have to be prepared for very, how do I say this? Typical violence that are against women. The misogyny is there, is very like historical type of misogyny. If you're an avid reader of fantasy, that won't, you barely will react to that because everyone includes misogyny in their goddamn fantasy books for some reason. That's a different conversation. But a very specific type of violence against women. There is attempted and actual, I can't remember if it's on page or if they just say that it does happen to other characters. So be aware of that going in. I believe it's one on page attempt, but again, it's been a while since I read them, but do be aware if that is something that is triggering to you or it makes you uncomfortable, you just don't want to read it, maybe skip this one. Unfortunately, it does have that type of themes because it is unfortunately historically accurate. It is set in a very patriarchal society, so just be aware of that. The Magician's Guild by Trudi Canavan might be one of my all-time favorite fantasy series. So I'm a little bit worried, like I'm a little bit nervous about what people are saying because it's just like, I read it during university. My best friend and I, we both read it at university and we both really loved it. And we had this moment where it's 3 books and in the last book there was a, oh, no you didn't, like not even like, oh no you didn't, I was like, no, why kind of moment. And it might have been the first time I really felt something in my little dead heart, but so yeah, I have the reviews here and I just don't want to look at it because I love the series. Okay, but we're being adults, it's the spooky time, right? So we have to read it. DNF! Oh, okay. What do you mean you DNF'd it? I'm sorry, but I can't take more of the insipid interaction between these flat and dull characters. Also stupid. Who keep running around in this vague and generic world where the nuance doesn't exist and where everyone generalizes to excess. I do understand that, especially in the first book, which this is referring to. It is a little bit dragged out. Yes, I can see that. I can respect that. I liked the way that this first book and how it was dragged out kind of showcased the political implications of what was happening. I'm not going to spoil it, but it definitely does not give you a sense of the world because the world is not important for this part of the story because she does not know the world. She just knows this city. She knows the underbelly of the city. That's all she knows. She doesn't know about the rest of the world. She doesn't know about the nobles. She doesn't know about like the rulers, and she doesn't know about magic or anything. She's just trying to survive. So I think that Trudi Canavan did that really well to showcase, because you're only seeing this through the main character's view, right? It's very true to the lens which you are following. But I can understand that people might feel like it's like undefined, very generic world. But I think that it is very well crafted in the sense of what would this main character actually know, understand, and pay attention to. But there are some characters that are very flat and dull and stupid. Yes. Don't even get me started about the writing. So bland and repetitive that it would be laughable if it wasn't so terrible. Not gonna lie, that kind of hurts. It's not even my damn book, but it was just like, that's a bit harsh. That's a bit harsh. Oh my god, what kind of nightmare is this? I mean, if this is not your story, this type of kind of build up to the real story, because I know how the rest of the story is, I can understand that this feels dragged out. What kind of nightmare is this is actually a really good line. It, like, you are disliking something that I really love, but I will give you, what kind of nightmare is this is something that I'm gonna try to keep in my vocabulary, because that's a really great fucking line. Anyway, thank you very much for being here. Let me know down below if you have read any of these stories and if you agree with the 1-star reviews or with my 5-star reviews. With that said, thank you very much for being here, and I hope that you have a good day or night, wherever you are in the time stream, and I will see you in the next one.